Hey traders, this is Christian from Market Trade Group, and today is Thursday, September 17th, and this is your end of day recap. So, little bit more rotation on the tape today. We'll talk about some of those areas that were rotated into, but overall, I'm just kind of getting excited that we're coming to the end of the week. These action-packed weeks can be a little bit troublesome or worrisome, right? Yesterday we had the Fed, which in my opinion was basically at the end of the day was kind of a non-event, right? I know that there was apparently the market had some expectations about Powell doing something else. Powell mentioning, of course, that the fiscal stimulus is going to be needed. These are all things that we know about. I think the market was just looking for a reason to kind of sell off a little bit more. And, we got through that. And I think tomorrow, right, we have quadruple witching, which I think is one of the reasons why we're seeing these rotations, right? Remember what happens again with quadruple witching. The leaders get sold and the underperformers get bought, right? That's all part of index rebalancing, right? For the whole S&P rebalances tomorrow, as well as all the equal weight indices. So we talked about that in yesterday's video, so I'll move on. Keep in mind for tomorrow morning, it is the index futures expire on the open. So do not get fooled by the volume that you see on the open. By the way, don't get, like, if you're a technician, right, and you look at if you look at volume a lot, every name in the S&P will see higher than normal volume tomorrow. So especially around the open, right? You're going to see people on Twitter say, "Oh my goodness, what's all that Apple volume? Is somebody buying?" No, it's basically it's what's called futures expiration. That happens on MOO, market on open tomorrow, MOO. What happens is, I'll try to explain this in a quick 15 seconds, but that's going to be tough. But what happens is dealers, right, the banks and portfolio desks, Delta One desks, will have these positions that they still have their September futures position on, and they have that versus a basket of stock, right? So they have that on because they're arbing something. And what they do is they'll have to put those baskets on the open tomorrow to get what's called SQ pricing, special quotation pricing for the futures. So bottom line, all you need to know about this mechanism that happens where traders are putting down these orders for market on open is just be careful of the volume around the open. Call it in the first 10 minutes, pre-market and post. Once the market opens, you're going to see all this volume, but it all goes away after the open. And then you're going to have to, then there will be outsized volume tomorrow too because of the S&P and the Nasdaq rebalancing. So those are just some things to worry about. The Russell does not rebalance, just the S&P. So you're gonna see some funky moves, just like you saw this week. By the way, that's just one contributor, to this rotation mechanism that's been going on, in my opinion. But in any event, let's go through some of today's movers. So, I'm kind of just a little bit excited about today because always, when I'm like right around flat for the day, when the market is down a lot, I feel like I accomplished something. Of course, I would like to be up a lot today, but I just feel like I kind of dodged a bullet, and I was really, I think in some of the right things. Not every position I have on was perfect today, but overall I think I kind of weathered the storm quite nicely. And if you look at some of the things, I do find it funny because I've heard a lot about the materials, and I've heard a lot about, basically the materials, the industrials, the transports. These are things that we were talking about a week ago. So that's the beauty if you're a member of Tribeca Trade Group. We talked about that in our weekend note, and this weekend watch list that I do, this trade that I do, we put this out on the weekend for members. So if you're a member of Tribeca Trade Group, you got this beforehand, and names like LYB, which is something we traded last week, EMN, which I did not put a position on in this one, steel, right? I heard some people talking about steel finally today, right? This was now it's funny, and I do like marvel at some of these things, but some of the stuff that I'm really early on, right? They don't get any likes, right? I tweeted about this last week, right, about how steel was doing. I said, watch the steel. You know, I got 6 likes on this thing last week. Look at how good of a trade this was. You know, and what was going on here in the steel names, all bottled up, and look at them now. You know, they're breaking out. I think they can push higher. I think they can get to this 34 level, and I think, you know, ultimately this this venom up here, maybe not in a straight line, but 34.77, you know, this whole bottled up area. But again, I don't really get it. I see, you know, whatever. I'll move past this. But look at this. This HCC was another name that I talked about. Now, I didn't trade this HCC, but look at this thing. I talked about this one going too last week. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. I always take a lot of pride because I do the work, right, to make sure that I'm on top of this and I'm 3 to 4 days before everybody else. But this HCC, here's the note that I wrote about coal. You know, there's a note last week in Bloomberg about you know, what's basically has been going on with steel and some of the demand in China and so forth, right? I know everybody's been talking about FCX, but I think some of these things, you know, are, you know, can be greater moves. But yeah, I mean, that's what this, I mean, this was the first day right here on the right of the screen, and you know, this thing has now gone up to 20 bucks. So and so on and so forth. I highlighted a bunch of other names too. So this LYB, for example, right? I heard nobody talking about this about a week ago. So I did take this trade off. I was only looking for 79. And I got it. I established that trade, I think, around like 70 bucks. So nice for that one to play out. Of course, this Dow has been moving nicely as well, but a little bit slower. Deere is another name. I actually moved out of calls in this one and into a little bit of stock. I like that candle for the day. So, you know, what I want to talk about too with the rest of this video too is just you know, making adjustments in September has been a big thing. I've been through quite a bit of these Septembers, and some of them have, you know, lost a decent amount of money because I wasn't positioned the right way. I was using too many options and not enough stock, right? In stock, you can kind of weather the storm. In options, right? I hear this all the time on you know, different financial media that options are less risky than stocks. That's not true in my opinion. If you're positioning a big, you know, in options in a swing trade, that position can quickly go to zero if the market moves against you, where that's not going to happen in stock. So, for example, you know, if you're positioned, let's say let's say October calls and the market goes against you, you could lose 50% of your position, right? If you're in a stock, maybe you lose 5% of your position, right? So that gets lost. And if the market does move against you, or the market is choppy, which Septembers are often choppy, options are a very difficult game in that market. And I talked about that in yesterday's video, talking about how unusual option activity does not really work that well in a choppy market. When the market is trending, everything works, right? Or close to everything. But it's a big difference. And people who are peddling these products on TV don't seem to either. There's one of two things. Either they're not learning from their experiences and not educating their members or their traders, or number two, they're not really trading. So that's why they're making up that, you know, they have on so many positions, because if they haven't learned from past Septembers, I have a big problem with whether or not they're actually trading, and if they're not passing that information on. But anyway, that's, you know, some of what I try to kind of help traders with, and you know, because September is a tough time. So if you're managing okay, decently, where, you know, you're plus or minus 5% for the month, you're doing a fine job, because it's very difficult to kind of navigate these Septembers. Now let's talk a little bit about the indices. And by the way, their performance for the month. Sorry, not for the month, for the day, you could see also metals and mining. The semis did very well today too, which, you know, I noticed some of the strength going on there. We'll talk about that group in a second. And aerospace and defense rallied. Some of these, again, I'm looking at the performance from open to close to see, you know, where the positioning is. but I think there's some definite bright spots with that. Remember, again, most of the move that usually happens, now not last night, but most of the move that happens, for the markets over time is in the overnight market, right? And we saw that about 3 days this week. In case you weren't paying attention, all of the move happened, or the majority of the move where we rallied happened in the overnight market. It didn't happen during the cash open or during the cash. So buying the close and selling the open is a much better trade than the other way around. I just wanted to mention that because I haven't mentioned it in a couple weeks, and I did see that phenomenon go on about 3 days this week. So especially Sunday night going into Monday too. All right, so let's talk about some levels, right? So we mentioned this in yesterday's video that yes, we failed at the top of value. So again, we just may not be ready. And what I keep going back to is this, just a little bit of a comparison, because there are some similarities to what happened back in June, because we got way ahead of ourselves in June. We came back. Remember, we bounced here too. We put together basically 3 green candles, and then we had a fallback for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. So if this is going to be a similar move, and I don't know if it is, the lesson here is not to be in a rush, right? And going back to what I was saying about options, if you traded options back and forth, it's going to hurt. Because you need a fast, aggressive move in your direction when you're trading options. Unless you're going out months and months, or not months and months, but unless you're going out to like at least November in your options. And I know a lot of retail traders just are not doing that. So that's the thing that you kind of have to watch here, and that's why I'm constantly looking for signals and watching support and resistance. So we did not make it over resistance yesterday. We did hit this 50-day moving average. Even if we break below the 50-day moving average, I do think we've got more support behind it. But I know everybody's fixated on that. We also held value for the day, right? So we did break. That was the story yesterday, was that we were above value most of yesterday. We fell into it and then had some continuation in the overnight market. But we're still holding, this is the level to watch, 33221 for the rest of the week. And we'll go from there for tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm thinking that we have a chance to kind of rally a little bit into tomorrow. I know it's going to be quadruple witching, so it'll be complicated, but I did like what I saw, in terms of the price action. NASDAQ is going to be a little bit different. NASDAQ went down further, right? And you're going to see some breaking of some levels. If you look at the Qs on the daily chart, you're going to see that we did break the 50-day moving average, but we're holding that bottom of value, right, which is 266.36. Now, keep in mind, you hear a whole bunch of things. I have the financial media stuff on during the day, and you hear about death to technology. Oh, we should be getting out of tech stocks. Just let them breathe for a little while, right? Let them do their thing. If some, you're going to see which ones are the leaders, which ones are the weaker names that are really breaking down. But give them a chance to consolidate a little bit. I think that people, and this happens a lot in financial media, is that they're not putting things in perspective. They're going to tell you like how extreme the move is today. They're not going to say, oh, well, tech stocks are still outperforming and up huge year to date, and they probably were in need of consolidation. That's my opinion. Do I want to see a major breakdown in the group? No, I want to see them kind of hold in here, around here. But even like consolidation, I think is fine, considering how far and how long the rally was in this group. So yes, we're going to have to watch some levels to the downside. 266.36 is the bottom of value, and if we break that, you have to worry about 258, right? And we're right at the bottom of value for the week as well, but there's some things that you have to worry about down here, 258 and so forth. Now, if we look at how the FANG stocks did today, which are the big components in this group, yeah, I mean, it's concerning. I'm not really sure what this, that's a weird looking candle. I'm not really sure why Amazon is having such a hard time. Perhaps that, because Amazon is one of my favorite stocks, but I'm sure it's a lot of people's favorite stocks. So that's probably some part of the issue with Amazon is it's overcrowded, and there's probably a decent amount of selling going on to make room for all these IPOs that the institutions mostly get. I didn't talk about snow, but I'll tell you, I really like I know these have gotten some attention, over the last couple of days because there's so many of them coming out. But I really don't like it. To me, it gives me a bad taste in the mouth and in my mouth regarding how much they're pushing this thing up on the IPO day, right? With the indications, putting them higher and higher and higher, and then when it finally goes public, it's a big letdown. Right. So yes, all the institutional investors get their money, and everybody else is kind of left out in the cold and the snow. Haha. How you like that? How you like that joke? But yeah, it is like, it's really, I think, disheartening for retail investors who want to get into a stock like this, and they push it up so much on the IPO day. It didn't used to be like this. I would say, I remember how things were in 1999 and 2000. And yes, they would have to up the prices, but they would still rally pretty hard on the IPO day. It's not like it used to be. They are making sure that they open it on the absolute high, the highest they can, to get those institutional investors. Retail investors do get some of the IPO too, but it's very small amount of shares compared to what the institutions get. But it just feels like you kind of get, if you're a retail investor and trying to get into this name in the secondary market, you kind of feel like you got ripped off because they put it up so much, right? So anyway, I get it. They have a job to do. So that's my take on that. Other than that, a few names that I thought were interesting today was Micron, and Micron is more of a value-ish type name, so it kind of makes sense. But there's been call buying the last 2 days in this. I did get long this stock today, along with the with the move in value. I do like the semiconductors. What else saw some attention today? I think this Taiwan Semiconductor also holding the top of value. Some of these things, again, you have to be a little bit patient with, but this thing did give you a nice signal using the value areas. Broke out, big red candle yesterday, giving back some of the gains, but it looks like we're back into support. So if it doesn't work, if the trade doesn't work, you know where it's not going to work. If it breaks below 80 bucks, right? That's Taiwan Semiconductor. Also, what I thought was interesting is some of the Teladoc and the LVGO. This is back inside value. We'll see if it can hold on to 195. This chart looks a little bit better, LVGO. I like this candle. Once Thinkorswim updates here, you got to move back into value. There we go. And above the 50-day, notice that it broke the 50-day moving average intraday and then reclaimed it as well as bottom value. So I like this. Also, Zoom was, made a nice little move today too. It was up 1.2% after going lower. So, like I said, these are great days to see where the relative strength is, even in the growth names, right? So a name going red to green tells you something, right? Versus a name that basically did not come off the lows, right? Those moves may not be done in the names that could not rally from the lows. So just keep an eye on that. Like PayPal, is one name that I'm not sure when this is going to be done selling, but it's one of my favorite names. Do I like this chart breakdown? No, I don't. But, we'll see if buyers come back into this one as well. Right, but this is one of the situations where really no rally from the low of the day. All right, I was going to go, I had one or two other names. What else did I trade today? Trade a little bit of NVIDIA. This Lulu's killing me, right? As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, not every. There's a headline out about banks. Sorry, let me just lower that volume. That is Mr. Bloomberg Squawk. So it's Micron, Deere we talked about, LYB we talked about, Taiwan Semi. Again, I go over all my trades here. NVIDIA I traded for a little bit of a day trade. I did try a trade here in Nucor. Again, if these things, on the first day of a breakout, which was yesterday, I'm late in this one, and that's why it's a small position. But if these things can go crazy for a couple more days, 52.92 is an area that this could get to. A member talked to me about, brought up this chart today too, CC, breaking out of consolidation. Nice move here. So it doesn't appear, what I would watch for these names, I do get concerned, like I said in the beginning of the video, that now everybody's talking about this group. Sometimes that means the trade is getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I would wait for these names when they don't close on the highs. That's when the trade may be over. And right now I'm not seeing that yet. So, maybe we have a day or two more of this material type value rally, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. A lot of other charts where I'll post some more charts in the Tribeca Trade Group room, and we'll go from there. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.